I've wanted to cover this story for a while, though it's still not finished and we can't follow the thread all the way to the end. What we can do is get briefed up to the Death of Doctor Strange crossover. But basically, Ben Reilly, the clone of Peter Parker, who was created by Miles Warren during the Clone Saga, which was a controversial storyline that really seemed to split a lot of readers, not just in its subject matter, but also the incredible length of the second Clone Saga. Though I really enjoy parts of it, including the character Ben Reilly. So now he shows up in a fancy new suit backed by the Beyond Corporation, who recently bought the Spider-Man trademark from the now defunct Parker Industries from a previous storyline. But before Peter gets a chance to process this, they are both hit with a combined attack from the UFOs, and it is nasty. Ben's fancy new digs allow him to step away unharmed, but poor Pete was just wearing a regular suit, and the radiation overloads his bodily systems, and he is rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, this just seems to be how things go for these two. As one gets stronger, the other one withers, and then when that one flourishes, the other one suffers. Now bedridden, Peter gives Ben his blessing to be Spider-Man, as he is currently unable to fill that role, knowing fully that once he is well, they're going to have a talk about this whole trademark thing. As his first act as Spider-Man, Ben Reilly takes down the UFOs. He also recruits the Daughters of the Dragon to help him train. I actually really like this idea. I always enjoy seeing heroes train with one another, learning and improving their skills. And Ben does have a few things to learn, as he discovered when facing Morbius, who I plan on talking about in the near future. So those are the need-to-knows of Zeb Wells' amazing SpiderMan Beyond storyline, leading up to where we need to be for this tie-in. If you're interested in hearing a fuller and more detailed look at this series, just leave a comment and let me know. I'd love to get into it after we wrap up this Death of Strange series. And that brings us to the issue at hand, the Death of Doctor Strange, Spider-Man. Unlike the other tie-ins, this book was written by the main series writer Jed MacKay, who has a well-celebrated history writing for Black Cat. So let's crack the spine. One night, while Peter is in the hospital, Felicia Hardy is sitting by his side when Ben drops in to check on him. She is not exactly warm with Ben. In fact, she blames him for Peter's current condition, speculating that this was all a planned coup. Ben tries to defend himself. Before he could get a word out, the head of the Sorcerer Supreme appears in the hospital room above them. It's another one of Stephen's fail-safes. In case of his death, he has prepared this spell to seek out Spider-Man's aid. Without hesitation, Ben and Felicia both head out to the Sanctum for details. I just want to point out that this is the first time that I can recall seeing the Sanctum window opening in this fashion, and I love it. I don't know if that's just a regular thing that I have somehow missed or overlooked, or if this is just this artist's interpretation, but it is magical. And Wong tells them that it is indeed true that the Sorcerer Supreme has been slain. It takes them both a moment to believe him with Blue Cape walking around behind him, but Wong explains that it's complicated and that they're working on it. And while they're working to solve his mystery, they need to ask a favor of Spider-Man. But Wong looks at him closely and proclaims that he is not Spider-Man, to which Ben replies, "It's complicated." And a shout out to Ferreira the artist for illustrating such comedic movement with such thin lines. That's always something that I notice about an artist, is the way that each person depicts movement. But back to the favor. So Wong tells us that in addition to keeping several magical barriers and various warlords, wizards, and ill-doers at bay, he has a laundry list of responsibilities around the city. A list that he trusts Spider-Man to maintain. So Ben and Black Cat swing into action. First on the list is keeping the Gator Shaman and his majestic albino gators in the sewers of New York City. After duking it out for a while, they reveal to the shaman the real reason why Strange keeps him underground: to protect the existence of the gators. He's concerned with how the world would respond to their existence. How would someone like Kraven the Hunter or the rest of the Kravenoff family feel about them? To keep them from being hunted, the shaman and his albino gators retreat back into the dwelling. Number 2, stop the hungry Prince of Hearts from resuming his hunt. But someone's beaten them to it. When they get there, Moon Knight is covered in blood and claims to have already handled it. Moon Knight takes the news of Strange's death rather well, stating that he's died a few times and doesn't recommend it. Then he saunters into the night to do only Khonshu knows what next. I love these little guest appearances because Jed MacKay is also writing the ongoing Moon Knight series currently. And if you want to know more about Moon Knight, check out my buddy Hassman talk about every Moon Knight appearance ever. Our heroes then go on to wrestle a bronze bull, exorcise a demonic train, feed the Central Park dragon, appease spirits, even took out some mummies. And while sitting on a rooftop, they come to realize just how much Strange did for everyone, for the city. And Ben starts to talk about a parable about a village doctor, about how he always checks in on everyone and makes sure that they're healthy and helps them when they're sick, how he's a kind soul who is selfless in his actions. Ben says that healthy people don't really need doctors, only sick people do. So that role over time is taken for granted, and the village doctor starts to become invisible. You don't really think about him, if he has wood for his fire, or if his roof is leaking, or if he's getting enough food. And ultimately, the doctor himself succumbs to sickness and age. But because the village has forgotten him, they don't really notice his passing until they themselves get sick or hurt, and there's no one to tend to them. It's far too late. It's kind of a hard truth in their current situation. And Kat asks him who told him the story, and there's a part of Ben Reilly's hard truth. No one told him that story. Aunt May told Peter that story. And being the perfect clone of Peter Parker comes complete with every one of Peter's childhood memories. I mean, imagine being as self-aware as Ben Reilly, knowing that in a certain sense, everything that his mother ever said to him was actually said to what, like his brother, and he was just in the room? I mean, how twisted of a headspace must that be? But he stays focused and they get back to the list. And after fighting off some goblins, they are at the bottom of the list. One thing remains. And it's not ghosts, ghouls, or goblins. It's not about being Sorcerer Supreme or even a doctor. It is a simple kindness that Steven likes to spread by sharing a pretzel with Jimena Garcia at the end of her night shift. Someone that we learn is a total stranger to Steven. She doesn't even know what he does or who he really is, just that he's always there to brighten her day when it seemed the darkest. During the course of this entire book, Felicia has been saying that no matter how much Ben wants to try, he is not Spider-Man. But here at the end, Ben points out that the world has lost Doctor Strange. And for that, it has one less mystery in it, one less kindness, and that there is nothing he can do about that. However, with Peter in the hospital and the world being without Spider-Man, that is something that he can change. Because with those shared memories, he heard the same words from Uncle Ben about power and responsibility. And to break that down, it means that having such a great ability to respond creates a responsibility. And I'll say that again. Responsibility is the ability to respond. That's what Spider-Man has always taught me. That's what it's always meant to me. It's one person caught in a web of responsibilities. And tonight, Reilly feels like he has filled that void and proven that he is Spider-Man. And Hardy agrees, saying that until Pizza's on his feet, he is Spider-Man. That's all I'm saying. Just let the lad be who he was genetically created in a lab to be. That's all. Just for a little while, here and there. We all know the return to the status quo will inevitably happen, but let's just sit back and enjoy the ride. Next up, we have the White Fox tie-in. Amy Han is descended from Kumayo, mystical Korean shape-shifting fox spirits, and after her mother was murdered, Amy forged her own path fighting injustice as a member of the Tiger Division and the Agents of Atlas. Amy is the snow-clad hunter with the fury of the white whipping wind and claws of icy hail. She is the last of her kind. She is the White Fox. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know anything about this character, and I don't think that it would be fair for me to pretend like I do. But what I can tell you is from the confines of this book alone, and that is that after the fall of Doctor Strange, all manner of beasts, demons, spirits, and Oni have been leaking into the dimension. Tiger Division learns that there's been a sighting of a Kumayo. Let me clarify, a sighting of one slaughtering an entire village. Amy believes that she was the only one and decides to investigate. And a former ally, Lin Lai, the Swordmaster, tags along and they confront the Fox Spirit. I just want to point out that even though I have no clue what's happening or who these characters are, this art is stunning and I am enjoying it nonetheless. The Fox Spirit claims to be Amy's mother and hypnotizes the White Fox with her mother's presence, but she knows that it can't be her, and with Lynn's help, she sees through the facade and sees the beast for what it truly is. An epic battle ensues, where both Swordsmaster and White Fox suffer injuries. Lin slides in to block an attack, and his divine blade is shattered into pieces in the jaws of the beast. While distraught, the spirit kicks him, launching Swordmaster off a cliff. Amy transforms into a full-on fox spirit form and straight hecks this thing up. She goes for the throat and then goes to find her friend. Now, I'm kind of shocked that she's unable to find him, that they killed this character off in a tie-in. I'm not gonna lie, part of me kind of wants to look more into this so that I could care more, but I'm also kind of busy. So if you're a White Fox fan, let me know. But I think it's time that we checked in on those vampires in Chernobyl that Iron Man mentioned back in the Avengers tie-in. Death of Doctor Strange Blade kicks off with a beautiful page in 70s color palette which instantly casts the mind back, letting you know that this is a flashback or a recap. This prologue tells us of a time that Blade stood alongside Doctor Strange against Dracula. Turning the Darkhold against the vampire, they were able to kill all vampires in the Marvel Universe. For a time. But that was a long time ago, and now there is a thriving underbelly of vampiric activity in the abandoned cities around Chernobyl. Blade the Daywalker stands guard in the nightclub run by the now revived Dracula. It seems that Blade has taken up a position as some kind of sheriff watching over this dark city, keeping them all in line. And it looks like Drac is having trouble with one of his subordinates, Dahlia, who thinks that now is the perfect time to make a move against the Avengers and a play for control of the world. But Dracula is not considering this. Even with the Sorcerer Supreme dead, he is not pressing any advantage. I think that he is old enough and wise enough to wait and see where the power lies after all the uproar and then plan accordingly. But while refuting her, one of his lackeys brings in some kid, and this kid tells them this horrible and sad story that gets a lot of them feeling very strong emotions, like sympathy. And even Blade is horribly upset at their exploitation of this child for entertainment and plans to put an end to it. Throughout all of this, Dracula has shown no reaction or slightest care. So when Blade steps up to free the kid, Dahlia lashes out, sick of Blade's attitude. And just as they start to throw down, however, Drac appears behind Dahlia and grabs the She-Vamp by the throat. Tired of her disrespect, he has her and the kid locked up. But on their way to confinement, the kid shows his true colors. Green. He makes the guards recoil in fear and strikes an alliance with Dahlia. When Blade and Dracula discover the missing prisoners, Dracula reveals to Blade the kid's true nature, that he is a psychic vampire. Drac's seen a few over the centuries. They have an amazing ability to feed off of and manipulate emotion. And even though they are a threat, he has allowed this one to live long enough to drive out his other problem, Dahlia. Out on the streets, a psychic, vamped, pumped up Dahlia is enraged and attacks Blade. This time, when Dracula appears behind her, he finishes the job. And Blade is left to fight this emo kid who goes full-on Evangelion God mode and starts slamming the Daywalker into buildings and slinging him about. He tosses Blade into a lamppost, which gives him a really good idea. He impales the beast on the lamppost at dawn. The end of the book sees Blade really stepping into his role as sheriff. And the next time someone steps out of line, he doesn't hesitate to dust their ass. It's always nice to see Blade, and I know he's expected to make an MCU appearance soon, alongside the subject of our next issue, Death of Doctor Strange, X-Men, and the Black Knight. I have not kept up with X-Men for some time. I know there is definitely a Chris Claremont X-Men related video in the channel's future, but last I recall, they had gone back in time to grab a past version of Jean Grey and a past Scott Summers and pulled them into the future. Though it's been several years since then, I believe that this is the version of Marvel Girl and Cyclops that we're getting here. Along with Polaris, who's one of the daughters of Magneto, X-23, who's now Wolverine, and a personal favorite, Rogue. Now, I'm not going to completely spoil this book. It's honestly my second favorite tie-in in this entire series next to the Spider-Man one, and I want to encourage you to check it out. But some key points are that Dane Whitman has constructed the Ebon Siege, a throne of mystic power that he is able to wield to help direct his daughter Jackie, who is in the field shouldering the curse of the Ebony Blade. The X-Men get possessed and it is a romp. Amidst the action, Dane gets a vision of the three mothers and their child, and he is terrified. Well, that wraps up the second batch of tie-ins to the Death of Doctor Strange arc. I've really enjoyed this story, and the concept of the aftermath of a world without Stephen Strange. I'm not sure if he will return properly by the end of this story or if the Sorcerer Supreme is really gone for a while. Either way, I have enjoyed this send-off and the way that Jed MacKay pulls a character's supporting cast out of the woodwork to show their legacy and also their loss. It all wraps up soon, but until then, don't forget to let me know what you think about Spider-Man Beyond and what Ben Reilly is up to. As always, take care of yourselves.